Yeah, yeah. Making her way to the mic. They start dimming the lights. You start feeling alright. From Birmingham, home of the Teddy Longs and the Ruben Studders. More once you discover. For all of the lovers, Whitney Houston and Roman Reigns. For all of the lovers, and Mickey James and Marvin Gaye. For all of the lovers, and Sasha Banks, Janelle Monáe, Silk, Sonic, and Paige. Allow me to say, look, I just found a place, sweet escape. Every one of us, I was kinda late, 'cause I just made it off the struggle bus. Walking by the fate, 'cause I know it's right in front of us. Yo, I ain't with the hate, gotta focus on what's great. Ladies and gentlemen, Steph Hardy is on the air. Had to drop a couple bars just to make you all aware. So, sit back, relax, enjoy the show. You know I go by Joe or the rest of the flow, yeah. You know how to go, baby. Yeah. That's the flow, yeah.
Hey y'all, hey y'all, hey y'all, hey y'all, hey y'all. Welcome to a new episode of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast with your girl Stephanie Hardy, of course, host and creator of this fabulous platform, writer and color commentator featured on the Belladonna Division, Battle Club Pro, Black Girl Magic 2022, and Spartan Wrestling. And I am so happy to be on the show with y'all tonight. Like, a lot has been going on, but we persevere and we stay awesome, right? So, this is an amazing episode with an amazing guest that I am so happy to have on my show. She is an amazing wrestler, she's an influencer, she's a champion, and she has a connection that many people don't necessarily know that we both have, but we'll get into it later. She is the Big Flexer. She is Alexis Littlefoot. How are you, Alexis?
I'm doing great. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I am doing fantastic, and I am just so glad to have you. Like I told you, before we came online, I was just really excited, to meet you because I had seen you, on social media a lot of the time. So getting to meet you like in April at WrestleMania weekend was such a huge honor, and just I'm just really thrilled that we get to have this time together. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited too. It was great meeting you. LA was so fun to just get to see a lot of people just because a lot of people didn't go to Dallas. And then, of course, Tampa was very light. And then, of course, COVID. So it had been a couple of years since I had seen a lot of people um, during Mania Week. So this is like the first like official Mania Week with everybody coming into LA. So.
Yeah, that was my first actually full Mania week that I'd ever experienced because I had been to WrestleMania before, but I was like 17 and I was with my
Mm.
dad, and that was like WrestleMania 27. And of course, you could only have like at the time we could really only afford to just go to the event itself, and it was just one day, of course.
Hmm.
So we went to that, and that was incredible. But just experiencing the whole magnitude of all of the WrestleMania things at once as an adult is just like overwhelming, but it's beautiful at the same time because we're all together as a family celebrating, wrestling, which we love. So it was fantastic, and it was great to meet a lot of people who I see online all the time. So, and then meeting you, that was great. So, now that we're here, I got to get into the questions. So, Alexis, when did you fall in love with wrestling?
I fell in love with wrestling. It was like early 2000s. It was like right before John Cena's big feud with JBL for the WWE title. I was flipping channels one day and accidentally found SmackDown. I think this is back when SmackDown was actually on Thursday nights. And it was my spring break. I was still in like elementary school. I wasn't even in middle school yet. I was like 8 or 9, maybe, flipping channels and was just up late. And it was just like the build up between them going into WrestleMania. And it was just super exciting. I was like, who's this guy? Like, he was doing all this crazy stuff to JBL, like messing up his limo and pouring water in his 10-gallon hat. Like, he was just wilding. I was like, this is actually really entertaining. So from then on, I just kept watching it for John Cena. So if it wasn't for John Cena, I probably would have not started actually watching TV. I knew that like wrestling was a thing, but the whole time I would play the video games with my cousins. So the whole time leading up to that, before I watched it on TV myself, I thought it was a video game like Mortal Kombat. Like I didn't know that it was actual show that came on weekly.
That's pretty funny because, like wrestling and video games, of course, go hand in hand because there are so many people who I've talked to on my show who got into wrestling in so many different forms of media. Some of it is through watching the show on TV, some of it is through documentaries or DVDs, or some of it really does involve video games. So it's really interesting how you sort of thought it was a video game because in some cases it really is. Like there are just so many things like how you customize different stories and imagine all of the grandest spectacles of what could happen to humans, like that could possibly only happen in a video game, but then it happens in real life. That's essentially kind of what wrestling is.
Yeah.
um it's funny, and then there are only so few times when we can sort of control the outcome of it on the outside looking in, but then it's a very interactive experience with that regard. So I can definitely see that being a valid, comparison. I love that. And the idea that you started watching like when John Cena was feuding with JBL, that was one of the seminal feuds of the 2000s. So
Yeah,
that was hot stuff.
that was a very hot feud, and then obviously my mom was not into wrestling, but she let me get the pay-per-view. That
hmm
was when you had to actually. That was before the WWE Network, before you was buying each and every one of those pay-per-views individually. When it was like $50,
Yeah.
and my
Yeah,
mom just
those were real expensive.
I was like, can we please get it? And she let me get the pay per view. So I got to watch John Cena win his first championship.
Oh yeah, that was WrestleMania 21. That was so
Hmm.
good.
That was
And
a
that was
very good
actually
WrestleMania.
Yeah, that was actually one of my favorite ones. And here again in California, it's full circle, ain't it? Um, and that was in the Staples Center slash crypto. But either
Hmm.
way, that was a great WrestleMania. That was one of my favorites because, of course, you had Ray versus Eddie, and that was the first time I had ever seen two tag like fight each other. Like I had never
Mm.
seen anything like that before, and I'm just like, so they just gonna fight each other? They're supposed to be friends. What do you mean? Um, I was a kid, but it was a stellar match. That was when I really fell in love with technical stuff.
Yeah, that was just a really good Mania, just across the board. The card was really good. I feel like all the build ups, like even those when they were doing like the like Hollywood like movie previews, but it was the wrestlers reenacting them. It was really cool, and I saw a lot of tiebacks to that Mania this past year that WWE did, which is really cool to see that.
It really was. It had me kind of emotional. I was like, look at that. It's just like that. Like it was funny. But yeah, that was a really cool time to be a wrestling fan in that, regard. So I'm really glad that that's how you got into it during that time because it was really fun. But it's evolved in some ways. In some ways, wrestling has stayed the same, and in a lot of different ways, it has evolved since then. So it's great. So when did you know that you wanted to pursue it, as a career?
I knew early on, but my mom was really like strict growing up. She was one of those like keep your head in the books. Like I never got a college degree, so you're gonna get a college degree. So I went the college route. I got 2 degrees from the University of Kentucky. I wanted to do it in college just because I'm from Kentucky. OVW is very big here, and it was really big at the time just because it's, again, where John Cena got his start with WWE and trained there. Randy Orton, Batista, like some of the biggest names of that era when I started watching wrestling all came out of OVW, and it's an hour from my hometown, so I would go on their website and Google and look them up and look how much it costs. And it was obviously way too much money for my family to afford. So I stuck with college and got a regular job. And started building my name and my brand up in the wrestling community and kind of got popular that way. And I don't know, COVID really kind of like got me sitting in my thoughts. Like, there's nothing else to do besides be at home, go to
Mm-hmm.
work, whatever, work from home. And so I was like, when all this stuff is over, I think I'm going to start training. I think that's for me. So October 2020, I started training and debuted last year, March of
Wow.
2022.
Wow. So you really like got your career started during or even during sort of like in the middle of the pandemic, Alexis?
Mhm. Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was that like? Because I know there
Uh,
were certain wrestlers who were sort of waiting for their next opportunity because everything was shut down in some cases. But how was that?
it was different, of course. Like that whole back end of October, like from October, December, everything was kind of semi shut down. And I live in a state where wrestling is mandated by a commission. So it was like really weird times because like the commission was like, oh no, you guys are not going to be able to do shows. And then they finally started opening things back up again. And um, it was just a lot of, a lot of sitting around waiting and training hard and getting to a point because it's really hard. It's like it's not like you can train for a couple of months and really debut. Like I know some people do that, but I wanted to be as ready as I could be. And so I debuted March of last year. Was that 2022?
Mm-hmm.
So So yeah, and I've been going ever since. I didn't have that many matches in 2022 just because I had a job that I worked the weekends, and the weekends is where you can really get your reps in. But finally, I got a job at the end of 2022 that allowed me to be able to have weekends off and go and book shows and get my reps in.
Wow. So essentially your career is in a way still getting started to a degree.
Yeah,
But even with that, you were still able to make the necessary adjustments in your life to make it happen. And that's sorry, my other phone just spoke. Um, but either way, you were able to make the other adjustments in your life to sort of make it work. And even though you might not have been like fully encouraged with that because you were sort of told to go to school, and get sort of like a regular, concrete life under you, you still knew what you wanted to do and you still pursued that. And I admire that. And then the fact that, of course, the thing that blessed me so much when we met each other was the fact that you said you were from Kentucky. And that, of course, that means a lot to me because I've mentioned on my show before that I did graduate from Berea College in 2016. So a lot of, my adventures over those years was me sort of like having fun in Berea, but also running around in different cities like Lexington and like Louisville. Like I saw Beyonce in Louisville, and we, had vocal competitions in Louisville because I was a music major and stuff like that. So when you told me you were from Kentucky, I was just like, yo, I just
yeah.
couldn't, I just couldn't like
And
help
Berea's one of
it.
those places. It's like people like forget that Berea College is up there. Like I even sometimes forget Berea is up there. But yeah, Kentucky is a state where it's like everybody either knows everybody or you've been to somebody's town before or no. Yeah,
Hmm. And I know, like, I really liked being up there. I liked the experience of being up there because, like, I'm from Alabama. So it's just like going up there for school was an amazing experience for me. And just experiencing, Kentucky and the ins and outs of different things. Like, I like the people most of all. And then, just the air and everything else was just like, man, like, I really liked it and I enjoyed living there. But the thing about Kentucky that never ceases to amaze me is its fascination with wrestling and its wrestling culture, because it was one of the premier areas for wrestling back in the day and still is to a certain degree now. And I think that's amazing. So like, did that you did mention how that did sort of inspire you a whole lot. So what would you say the culture of wrestling is like now like in comparison to when you first started?
Like as a whole or just in the state of Kentucky?
Well, I guess as a whole. You can say as a whole.
I feel like the culture has definitely changed. I mean, social media has greatly changed the state of wrestling than back then. I mean, we had the internet back then, but it was like you got on Wikipedia, you got on whatever dirt sheets and blogs and a lot of that. I mean, Twitter and wasn't really around yet. MySpace was around, but it was like you had to be friends with everybody on MySpace. It wasn't like this open forum how it is now. Of course, they have like Reddit, and back then it's like all you had was like an AOL chat room and the dirt sheets and Dave Meltzer telling you what was right with wrestling. Now it's like there's so many people and publications and difference of opinions, and you can just literally tweet out your opinion and it go viral in this community now, which can hurt, but it can also help spread awareness too if you use social media the right way as a wrestler. That's why I'm really grateful that I did end up getting my degree, because I have a degree in journalism, and my background is mostly social media. So it greatly helped me because I know how to navigate social media because I studied it in college, and I've been on social media for over almost 2 decades now. So it's like I use it to my advantage. I don't use it to hurt, and some people still in wrestling haven't nailed that down.
Yeah, I can definitely tell from the way your social media is ran. Like, it's carefully curated in a way that's still very engaging without, resorting to lots of, crazy things. And that's something that I try to do. Even though I didn't really have a degree in journalism, when I started talking about wrestling on this show, like, it was just me talking about what I love and what I knew about it. But I still try to, have sort of a positive outlook on a lot of the things that I watch in wrestling, because there's so much, that we can sort of come down on and not like about it. But, how often do we truly like fully focus on all the things that we love about it? And why isn't that not, put out there a whole lot more? So the way that your social media is curated is like, you just can't really like stop looking at it. It's really cool. And I'm just like, it makes you want to, get to know more of you, the person. And yeah, I commend you and congratulations for getting a degree in that, and using it to your advantage. Like, that's amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do really care. I'm really passionate about social media and marketing and online marketing, just because it's like, again, it's my background, and um, a lot of wrestlers don't take advantage of that enough, I feel.
Absolutely. So when did you so since you started your independent wrestling career, what would you say, well actually before you started your career, let me go back a little bit. Um when you knew you wanted to pursue it as a career, like who would you say taught you the most and taught you the most as you were getting started?
I'm grateful because I had a lot of people that I had built connections and networked and relationships with, that are in the business, that are at the top of this business. So I reached out and met and sat with and talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people became friends with, and be able to ask them questions. But Faye Jackson, Big Swole, real top two people that I confided in a lot early on. I had a really good conversation with Bianca Belair before I had my first match, and she gave me some really, really good words of wisdom. It was actually the same night that she wrestled at Rolling Loud Festival, Music Festival.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was like I had met her in passing that same year at WrestleMania, but I didn't really like meet her. You know how like you with a group of people, y'all all say hi, and it's just it was a lot going on because she had just won the title, so I didn't want to like be in her face. Um, but so that was like my like one on one moment with her, and she gave me some great advice, and she's just a really sweet person, um, very humble person. But there's a lot of people that just reach out to me, pull me to the side. A lot of people in LA pulled me to the side and talked to me and told me how happy they were, that I was involved more than I was before and actually wrestling. So,
So you were touched by black angels. that's what
yes,
that's what I gathered from that
absolutely.
whole situation. You were touched
Absolutely.
by the black angels
Yes,
of
absolutely.
wrestling.
Obviously, there's some lighter skinned people that have also given me great advice as well. But as far as people like within the space, especially like the internet wrestling community, if you want to call it that, um, those are like some top people that I really look to, for advice, or they'll see a clip of me online, and Faye will text me and be like, "Here's where you did wrong here, and here's where you did right here, and I like this, and I like this," and I love that because it's like anybody else will just let you go out and look stupid or not really care, but Faye really cares, and I really, really love and respect her for that because she'll just do it out of the kindness. She won't even you don't even have to ask her now at this point. She'll see it online and just reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. Like meeting Faye was one of the biggest honors of my life because I got to call Black Girl Magic 2 with her last year. And I had heard so much about her and seen so much about her online and everything. So getting to meet her and sit side by side with her and call that action for that all Black woman show meant the world. And she has been nothing but welcoming and, amazing to me, as is Big Swole as well. I met her in New York during Black WrestleFest, and that was amazing too. And it's just like they've been incredibly supportive, as I continue to grow in my wrestling career. So I'm happy to hear that, we're in this community together, and we are getting all this love from lots of people, of course, but definitely it definitely is a more of a healing value when you get, love and appreciation from the people, who look like you and who want to see you thrive in this space. So I'm happy for you. Haven't met Bianca Belair yet, but maybe I will one day. But either
Oh,
way,
you will for sure. You will.
yeah. But it's clear that you are definitely, someone to watch and someone that people have their eye on. So that is absolutely incredible. So, do you believe that you've built a strong fan base since you've started? And what's an amazing story that you have, from someone who is a big fan of yours?
Um, yeah, I think I've done a good job in building, obviously networking and building connections, but I think a lot of people have followed me since my journey of being an influencer in the wrestling community and selling merch and doing all these different things to stay relevant within this community and then transition into wrestling. Uh, and then I've had people reach out to me like, hey, like, I bought your very first shirt that you launched. Um, and it's just good to see you like actually doing this and wrestling and inspiring. And I did my first autograph signing this past weekend, and a lady brought me some fan art, and she was just like, "You're such an inspiration. I've been following you for a long time." And it's just like it's great to see those people that have seen like the before and the after. And it's also great to see those new people that are coming along, like, "Oh my God, I didn't know you knew this person, and I found you through this person." But yeah, I do feel like I've done a wonderful job with that as far as establishing a fan base, because I've been addicted to social media since I was in high school, so really middle school and high school. So like I've had my Twitter since I was a junior in high school, so it's like obviously I've built people that didn't know anything about wrestling, found wrestling friends through, Twitter and things like that, and progressed from that from 2009 to 2023. So
Absolutely. That's really great. And it's good to know that, as you've, gotten everything started, you have a support system and then you have fans who watch you and see what you've got going on and they love it. So I'm really happy that that you are still growing that, but then even now, you still have it, even as in the beginning of it all. So I'm really happy that that's something that's
yeah,
happening for
and
you.
it's really amazing because we go back to LA, but it's like, so I hate to name drop again, but this is a really a good story that really touches my heart. So when I was in middle school, of course, MySpace is the big thing, right? The
Mm-hmm.
very first wrestler ever to add me on social media, I sent him a friend request, was Shane Helms, the Hurricane. Yes. We are still friends now on social media to this day. He's a big Twitter guy, social media guy, but he was like one of the first wrestlers. Him, Matt Hardy, and Ashley Massaro were like my favorites of that era, right there. And they were like the first three on social media at the time, and it was MySpace. And I added Shane Helms on MySpace, and it was just like so cool because I never interacted with him, but it was like just so cool that he was like sharing his life and his travels with the world, his entire following. Um, and that was not really something that you saw from wrestlers at that time. Like they really kept kayfabe and kept their personal life within their personal life. But he, would write blogs, and they did the Hardy Show, which was really cool to just see like them goofing off and hanging out and just being regular people. Um, and so obviously met Shane a couple of times in person since then, but like this year we finally took a picture together because we never had a picture together, and I like literally got to tell him like, I've been friends with you on social media for so long, and we just like laugh and joke about it every time because it's like, now look at how many wrestlers are using social media to either boost their careers or talk to their fans and interact with people online, when that was like a frowned upon thing 20 years ago. So, but yeah, it's a cool little tidbit that I share sometimes. I pull out time to time.
That's cool because Hurricane is actually one of my earlier favorites from back then. Like him and The Rock used to make me laugh so hard. Like
Man.
they used to have me in stitches all the time. So it's just he was one of my earlier favorites, and I'll never forget seeing him on Say Yes to the Dress Atlanta.
Oh my god. I didn't even know he was on that.
He
What?
was like my mama, and I wouldn't have known it if it wasn't for my mama. Like, cause she used to watch the marathons that
No,
TLC
I
would
need to
have.
pull this episode up, and I'm going to talk so bad about him on the internet.
Yeah, he was on Say Yes to the Dress. And my mama pulled me into the living room. I'll never forget it. And she said, "Ain't this one of your friends?" And I looked and I was just like, and then when he introduced himself as Shane Helms, I was like, "Oh, that's the Hurricane." And mom was like,
I'm
"I thought
dead.
so." So I'm just like, yeah, like he was on Say Yes to the Dress, like full on. So he really clearly, had no issue, sort of sharing his life as you can see. But, like you had that, you could treasure that interaction before everything kind of popped off the way it did when it comes to social media. Like, it's weird to sit and think about how a long time ago, like stuff like that in wrestling wasn't so much of a thing. And then, with the way social media evolved, it's almost like wrestling and social media low key go hand in hand for better and for
Right,
worse.
like
So,
it does. Like you have to live tweet everything. Like everybody's live
yes,
tweeting everything. Yeah, yeah, I it definitely goes hand in hand now. Like back then you watched it, and then you got on all the wrestling blogs after it was over, and looked at people's comments and how they felt. Sometimes if you didn't have like my mom was not letting me buy every pay-per-view. Like that was not going down in my household. So I would go to WWE.com, and how the results page, they would pull up, they would type like
yes.
live results. I would refresh that page every 30 seconds to figure out who won the match, because again, my family was not rich. We was not paying for $50 to $60 to $70 pay-per-views every month. And no, my mom was not having that. I got WrestleMania once a year, and I think one year I got WrestleMania and Survivor Series in the same year. I can't remember what year that was. I was in high school by then. But yeah, wrestling and social media kind of go hand in hand, and it's just funny because like again, 2 decades ago that was like highly frowned upon. Like, don't share shit about the business on online.
Yeah, and a lot of people have, of course, argued that they feel that social media has sort of killed kayfabe to a degree.
I I I I mean, you can still keep kayfabe and not be involved in social media. Like Malachi Black is a very good person that I like to pull up because he doesn't really. I mean, we know he's married to Zelina Vega. We know that, and they share bits and pieces of their personal lives. But when it comes to his character and his social media pages, all his social media pages still follow like his his gimmick.
Hmm.
So, I think there are ways to still be active on social media and still keep the integrity of your character. What I don't like is like the leaked information and like telling that people are signed and coming back and returning before they even do, and it's like, can anything be a surprise anymore? Like, we want to be
Right.
surprised. Like, I think The Rock coming back was the first time that I was genuinely surprised, and people were already talking about it, but it was like so many people were like, no, it's not happening, and yes, it is happening, and like it was just so much back and forth where it was just like you had to turn the TV on to see if it was really going to happen or not. But like, I missed those you had to be there live watching it moments of when people came back. Like when Matt Hardy came back. Um, that was a time. I'm talking about when he came back when all the Edge and Lita stuff was going on. Like
Oh my goodness.
that was a time like you just were genuinely surprised, and it was like it felt real. Like, it's like we need to do a better effort of keeping stuff under wraps. Like, I just that's the only thing I feel like we need to do a better like keeping like genuine surprises under wraps.
Yeah, I agree with you because all of the talk, like about everything and people with their, contracts and everything, it does sort of take away from the surprise element of it. It's almost like now you sort of have to personally make it your business to not feed into it so
Mhm.
you can keep the level of surprise up.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you mentioned The Rock because literally, like, I screamed to the top of my lungs when he came on television because he is my male goat. So I was just like, oh my god, oh my god, I just could not stop screaming.
Yeah.
I fell on the floor. It was a whole vibe.
Honestly, I tweeted this, but like the writer strike in Hollywood is so terrible. Like, I hope that they get their stuff figured out, and I hope they get everything that they're asking for, their equal wages, their everything they're asking
Absolutely.
for. But if it's gonna make my faves come back to wrestling, y'all can argue and negotiate a little bit longer, like up until WrestleMania time. Like, if that's how long it takes for them to figure their situation out, I'm fine with that. I really am, because now
Yeah.
I seen like Batista talking about like, I got time on my hands. Like, if they want me to, I'm like, what? Don't do that. Batista and Rock
Oh,
at the same time. Like, that would be so lit. And John Cena. I'm like, yeah, y'all just at the house bored now. At this point, if y'all all coming out and clocking back into work,
you made me think of that song, Bored in the House and I'm at the House Bored.
that's literally what everybody's doing right now.
Yeah, and hopefully they do, figure that situation out because the level of, just so many different new shows are coming out, and then they're also bringing shows from streaming to sort of replace the shows that would have been there. And I do hope they do figure out that situation because there's so many talented people doing amazing things in television and in movies, trying to make
Yeah,
changes and stuff. So I do hope
yeah. A
that
lot of
it
my
does work
favorite
out.
shows are on hiatus. Like, I want P Valley to come back. I want Chicago PD to come back. Like, all my favorite shows are on hiatus right now, and I don't have nothing to watch but wrestling.
Yeah. And hopefully they will figure it out. But with all the wrestlers, coming of our childhood coming back, it just makes us have to, fully bask in the moments that we do have with them because, once they, get older and life changes happen, they won't be able to do this at a certain point. So we do have to just be grateful for these moments that we do have. And I was definitely grateful to see The Rock again. That was
Also,
incredible.
me
Absolutely
too.
incredible. So back to you though. When you started in your wrestling career, did you face any obstacles or any self-doubt that you had to rise above, and how did you rise above it?
Self doubt all the time. It's just like every time you have a bad match or you feel like your promo was bad or anything, you see a negative comment, it's always like a little bit of like, oh, is this really for me? And I don't know how to feel or I don't like this or but honestly, again, the people that believe in me in this community that really like take the time to lift me up and give me advice and tell me how to get better and actually care about my progression. I look to them and I can't quit because I have so many people rooting for me. Uh, that is also amazing to like even have that type of support system within the industry. So yeah, I do feel a little bit of self doubt sometimes, especially when I have a bad match, because I'm just so critical of myself and I'm a perfectionist. And but also too, it's like even some of the like greatest people I see on TV, like or it's not always about the matches, like, it's about entertaining, and that was one of the best pieces of advice that I got, this past Mania weekend. I really wanted to use this Mania weekend, in LA because I knew it was gonna be so star-studded, and I knew that there were gonna be so many, like, big names out. So I use Wale Mania as my time to like pull people aside and ask people for advice. Like, I know people were like, "Girl, why are you talking about wrestling and we at a party?" But I'm like, "This is my only time I'm gonna ever get a chance to talk to you. Like, please." So I pulled Adam Cole to the side for like a couple seconds. Never met him before in my life. I was just like, "I'm a big fan of yours. Like, I just won my first title on Sunday, and now I'm here, and I've only been wrestling a year. Can you give me any advice?" And he was just so nice. And literally, he was like, I was just telling him, like, I just feel like all my matches are crappy. Like, I don't feel like I'm doing good. And he was like, honestly, you can learn the moves down the line. Like, bad matches will come, like, they'll happen. But, like, really, really hone in on your character and you can cover up a lot of mistakes with good character works and there's a lot of bad characters out there that are good wrestlers but not really great characters, and that's really what I really took away from our conversation. So I thought I go 200% on my presentation and my look and my appearance and my character, just because it's like, yeah, you can do a lot when you have a very good character versus no character and good wrestling.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing stuff. Like to get to pull people to the side, and know within yourself that, of course, it takes a lot for people to fully admit that they don't know everything and to ask for help, which is something that I struggle with a lot. Like, because I try to be stubborn and prideful, which is bad, and think a lot of the time like, oh well, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. But then, you also have to, be self-aware enough to understand that you don't know everything and that you might not necessarily have everything down. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's a bad thing. It just means
Right.
that you have improvement to do. And clearly, you have a community surrounding you that's giving you all the things that you need to make you feel like, you belong. And I'm glad that you were able to have that. I feel like we always keep coming back to the LA part because
Right.
yeah, because it's like I was at Wale Mania as well, but I felt like a fish out of water because that was my first time at a Wale Mania and I was just starstruck just looking at everybody. Like, Like,
Wally Mania's
wow,
progressed a lot.
it's a lot.
My first Wally Mania was WrestleMania 30 weekend. Was it
Hmm.
30? Had to be. I can't remember. These all of these WrestleMania numbers is running together now at this point. I know we're on our way to 40, but now it's like I can't remember which one I've been to, which one I haven't been to. I can't keep up. But it was WrestleMania in New Orleans. That was my first Wale Mania experience, and I believe it was Wale Mania 3. Yeah,
Hmm.
it was Wale Mania 3. And I was also the same way. I had like paid for the VIP and got in there, and it was just like Rob Van Dam's just in there, just like having the time of his life. And I'm like, this is crazy. And that was when you were like in the same room as them. Now it's like they're on stage and like people are in a crowd, but it's like I met a lot of people that year, and again, I'm a very social person, so I'm not afraid to like walk up to somebody and shake their hand. I woke that WrestleMania, I was like, yeah, I'm really meant to be in this business because I can just walk up to these people and start casually starting a conversation, and that's how I became good friends with MVP. Who else did I meet? I met a lot of girls within the wrestling community at that Wale Mania and just developed a lot of good. I use Wale Mania as like it's a big family reunion. Like use that as your time to tell a black wrestler that how much you meant to them as a kid because that's what I did. Like and you never know where it might lead you. Like so. Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
I always use any opportunity you're in a room with somebody. You're not gonna be in a room with Beyonce and not speak to Beyonce, are you?
No,
Exactly.
not at all.
That's how I
Not at
treat it.
all.
I'm gonna speak to Beyonce. I do not care. I don't care if 5 security guards tackle me after. I'm gonna say hi to Beyonce first.
Hmm. Yes, and that's double for me because that's my birthday twin. So I have to make that happen.
Oh
Yeah,
yes,
including Xavier Woods too, and I got to talk to him at Waller Mania as well, and I couldn't believe it.
oh
Like we share the
gosh,
same birthday too, so and I just love him and a New Day. So getting this to talk to him was just like, yo, like I just talked to Xavier Woods, like what? Like it was
yes,
amazing. And I told him he should be a champion, more often, and that was nice. So it was really great. I met a lot of people there, and I got to meet Sam Roberts. It was just a really mind-blowing experience just to be in the same room as these people that you admire and watch on TV and stuff like that. It was just like we are
exactly,
literally breathing the same air. What the heck?
exactly. So I tell anybody that's like interested in growing their podcast or growing like whatever outside of just strictly being a fan, if you have something that's tangible that you're trying to get off the ground and you want to make work, go out and network and meet people. Don't be scared to shake hands. Like you can't, especially in the wrestling business, be scared to shake hands and speak to people. It's like one of the major parts of wrestling. When you get in the locker room, you go and shake everybody's hand and introduce yourself. uh, the same way when everybody's drinking and partying, like go up and
Mhm.
introduce yourself, and you never know, you might strike up a intriguing conversation with one of your favorite people, especially at Wally Mania. I think everybody's guards down, everybody's just happy to see each other and not have any like expectations of I don't know, being on TV or being like it's just a big family reunion party and everybody's just cutting up and a lot of free alcohol. So
Oh yeah. Um Not that I partook in that, but at the same time, it was a really good time. There was fun had, there was dancing, and there was just
mhm.
people. So I just enjoyed it so much,
Me
and I
too.
can't wait to experience it again. I really can. So, what are some of your hobbies that you have outside of wrestling?
I sew. I make all my wrestling gear. I'm about to venture into making gear for other people local in my area. I like graphic design. I do graphic design as well. Any of my personal flyers that you've seen out in the world, not like any of my like match graphics, but like just stuff that promote myself. I make all of my own graphics as well, and I don't know. I'm diving into Canva a lot. I don't know if you know what that is, but I'm like
I've seen commercials for it. What exactly is it?
it's like an online design platform. It's like a Photoshop, but like not as intense as Photoshop. Like there's a lot of like preloaded elements and stuff that you can like clip art and stuff that you can drag and put into it, and it's very easy to maneuver, but there's a lot of like really good easy design. Like I use that a lot more than I use Photoshop nowadays, or I use a combination of Photoshop and Canva. So, but yeah, I'm diving into that, and really I just like binge watching shows. I watch a lot of crime shows
Mm-hmm.
and chilling out, cooking, being in the house. I like being in the house because I feel like I'm always outside a lot.
Okay, those are pretty solid hobbies. Being a graphic designer, making gear for other people, making gear for yourself, watching crime shows. That's pretty, that crosses off every bridge right
Uh-huh.
there. You remind me of my mom. Like she watches crime shows too.
I love them. I have
Yeah.
Hulu Live and everything that pops up. So like during the pandemic, well, it wasn't really during the pandemic, but like I had quit my job, and literally it was like a month. And I watched every episode of Chicago PD, and there was 9 seasons. I watched every single one of them, caught up to the current season that was going on
Mhm.
in like literally 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And
That's
then
how it is.
there's a lot of episodes on them, and they long. They like an hour long.
Yeah, they are.
But yeah, I love binge watching shows. I can't like if I start watching a show and I get hooked to it, like I have to finish it immediately. Like I can't go like forever and just only watch an episode a day. Like I watch like literally 10 episodes in a day if I have time.
Yeah, that's a pretty, dedication. That's a pretty like dedicated schedule to a TV show, especially once you get into it, because that's what happened with me and Grey's Anatomy. So I totally get it. Like when I was in college, I watched so much Grey's Anatomy to the point to where I actually caught up and didn't think that I would, because I was just like, this show's been on forever. There's no way.
Mhm.
But when you love a show, you'll make a way.
See, that's like I won't do a show like that has like 30 seasons. Like I can't like
See, that's the
no, that's
thing.
too much
That's the thing. You
time.
say you can't, but then once you are in it,
I
you're in it.
I watched a couple like see I got into Chicago PD because like it's on USA. Like the
Right.
reruns would come on USA. It would either come on before watching wrestling or it would come on after. So like my TV just still stay on, and I'm like, dang, this show kind of lit. Like what? And the reruns would come on USA. So I'm like, let me tap in. I've watched like 2 or 3 episodes out of order of what's going on, and that each episode is kind of interesting. So let me run it back and watch it, and I did, and I'm like, nah, this show is lit. But I
Mm-hmm.
can't. I watched a few reruns of Grey's Anatomy. I've just not been interested. I don't know. There's something about the stories and plot that I don't. But I was a big How to Get Away with Murder watcher when it first came out, and then it just started getting unrealistic, and I'm like, okay, I can't keep watching this no more. So I kind of fell out of that. And then what else did I watch that was Shonda Rhimes? Oh,
Did you watch Scandal?
Scandal. Hmm.
Yes.
And I kind of fell out of that towards the last couple of seasons too, just because I get very if it doesn't keep my interest, I get very bored of stuff easily. So I'm not watching that anymore. And too, like for shows like that and dramas and action and all that, like if it's like way out the realm of can't I this probably would not happen in real life. I'm like, yeah, I can't watch it. Like I like that's why I like true crime and stuff like documentaries and stuff of stuff that have actually happened because it's like this is so interesting. I can't believe this really happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
true crime is pretty. It's got some pretty insane stuff. So, Yeah, like it's just television shows are just fun to get into and stuff. And so I'm not gonna hold you. The reason why I would ever look at or take a glance at Chicago PD was for Atwater.
Yeah, he's fine.
He's
He's very
fine.
fine. Hmm.
He's fine. And
Yeah,
that's all I
that's
have
like
to say.
50% of the reason why I started watching it because I'm like, oh, he's fine. And then like, no, that Hank Voight man, he's the man. He
Yeah.
begin he begin stuff done. So yeah, I started watching it because I'm like, he's fine. And then I'm like, Hank, he's a G. I like him. He handles business. So I started watching it because of that. And like some of the crossovers with SVU were just so good. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah.
Oh yeah, like it's a whole universe. Because I
Mhm.
believe my mom actually watches Fire and Med because of it. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's a pretty
Yeah.
deep universe,
I don't really
and
like the characters in Med to watch them, and keep saying that I'm gonna watch Chicago Fire because a lot of my friends like they watch Chicago Fire, but they don't watch Chicago PD, and they're like,
mhm.
if you like PD, you'll like Fire, and I'm like, you don't even watch PD, so how would you know?
Yes, you just twist yourself up with all of the crossovers and
Hmm.
everything. But it's all good television, so big ups to the people at NBC. This isn't a commercial,
Yeah.
but big up to NBC and the people for the one Chicago um shows. So how would you say you balance, your life as a wrestler along with being an influencer for various brands? I've seen you do various like promotions like for businesses such as, Papa John's and so many other different things, and even the Kentucky Derby, which is of course a really deep rooted Kentucky tradition. So how do you balance all of that with your wrestling career?
It's tough. I have a lot of projects that I'm sitting on right now just because it's like I don't have the time to do everything and there's not enough hours in a day and I still have a regular 9 to 5 job. But I am like really blessed that the Papa John's and the Kentucky Derby projects both came from the same girl. She worked for every time she bounces to a new company, she brings me with her because we've already partnered up on so many projects. Um, and she's just been a fan of mine and followed me for a long time. She's like, that's what I'm saying. The beauty of social media, you never know who's watching you and who it's like once they get an opportunity will reach out and grab you like, hey, I want you to work on this for Papa John's. I want you to work on this for Twin Spires. I want to work. Yeah. So you just never know who's watching you. And I think that's a big thing about wrestlers in social media and using your social media for good and not to bash promoters or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
Absolutely. Like, I really commend you for that, even though it might feel like you have 1,000 irons in the fire. It seems that handle it as best as you possibly can. So, yeah, that's
yeah,
admirable. I like that. That only means that, once you get in the big time, you'll be able to, it'll come a little bit like second nature to you after that.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, who would you say has been your toughest opponent so far?
Ooh, that's a good one. I've never been asked that question. Rachel Armstrong was very good. Um, and Allison Kay. Those are like my
Mm,
two toughest opponents for sure.
okay. In what ways did they necessarily like challenge you in ring?
Um, I would say Rachel, just because I was still like, I was only a year in and not that many matches in. Um, she's just so far along, and even then, that was back in March. She's just so good and just raw, pure talent. Um, that I was just like, ooh, am I good enough to even wrestle this girl? Like, but she's a very sweet, kind person, and she's very easy to work with, um, and brings a lot of ideas to the table that I think she's gonna be one to look at next year. We're like, gonna be talking about her a lot more. And then Allison Kay, she's a vet. She's been in this business a long time, and that was my first TV match. So again, new experience, very nervous, but she also did a great job of being professional and helping me put everything together, and just being a good opponent. And at that AK-47, once you up for it, you coming down for it too. It ain't no stopping that. Once you in it, you in it. And that was probably one of the biggest finishers I've taken so far. But I've had a lot of battles with Ari Alexander too, who I think is also a star, and also be a name that we're talking about very high up next year. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of girls out right now uh, that I've wrestled, that I've been blessed that I've been getting very good opponents, because a lot of people don't get very good opponents this early on in their career. So I'm grateful that promoters believe in me, to wrestle all these great people.
Absolutely. Like, that sounds incredible. It sounds like you really are being challenged in a way, and I'm more than sure you're challenging them in a sense as well. But I'm really glad that you are, getting into the ring with these types of women, who challenge you in a great way. So that's cool. Now, who would you say is your dream opponent or dream opponents that you have?
Dream opponents. Uh, wow. I have a lot of dream opponents, and every time I get a new opponent, I'm like, oh my god, it's like somebody I when I was first starting out, like I would see their name on the PWI 500 or the Black Wrestling 500, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm wrestling somebody that's like a big name that gets recognition from PWI. Like in in November, I'm wrestling Jordan Blade and Alice Crowley in the same weekend, and they're both two women that are on the PWI 500 this year. And Jordan Blade, I believe, was also on it last year, if I
Mm-hmm.
remember correctly. So it's like, I can't believe that I'm getting this good of matchups this early on, and to be able to learn from them and be even mentioned in the same conversation as them, even though I'm just starting out and not even on year 2 yet, is amazing.
Yeah, like those are some pretty tough opponents, and the idea that you got to fight them is just it's pretty sick stuff. But the thing is, I believe one day you'll be on the PWI 500, and you'll definitely be on the BRP 50 for sure. Because your talent really does speak for itself, and the idea that you are fighting these women just shows that you're on the right path. So I'm really excited, for your future to see, who else you're going to fight, because you already have, great wrestlers on the horizon that you're going to fight. But either way, like, you're going to be right up there with them. So I definitely believe and trust in that trajectory. And in speaking about, Jordan Blade and the BRP 50, of course, you are a Black woman in the wrestling business. So I have to ask you, Black woman to Black woman, what are some other strides that you would like to see us make in wrestling? Even though there has been some that we have made, but there's still, of course, some improvements that can always be made as well. So, what more do you want to see us do?
Uh, Everything. I mean, keep main eventing these big shows. I would love to see a Black women triple threat main event WrestleMania. That would be very cool. Um, there's just so much that I don't think like that we can even think of off the top of our head that we haven't done in this industry that needs to be done or can be done. Obviously, we have Black women at the forefront in all of our major companies right now. Of course, Jade, we hear, is leaving AEW, but we still have Willow in AEW. We still have Athena in AEW. So, I mean, there are Black women still, shining in all of these companies. And I think that we might be getting Jade versus Bianca at a WrestleMania here soon. Who knows? But I just think that it's so great to see this type of representation across the board from the major companies to the indies. It's just that there's so much diversity now that you can't not see us now at this point.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. Like with seeing so many black women, at the forefront, like there's so many women, so many black women who fought for us to be where we are now, and we stand on their shoulders all the time. And just the idea that we're able, as that women like you and so many other athletes are succeeding the way that they are and being placed on various lists and headlining different shows and main eventing things. It's just, and putting women's wrestling on the map as well as just wrestling period. It's just an amazing thing, and it's something that is something, it's a phenomenon that I wish had happened when I was a child, but I still take inspiration from it even now as an adult. And I feel blessed to even be remotely a part of it, to even talk about it, in this space, to even commentate for it. So it's just like, and I hope that somehow I'm even a part of that change, because it is my goal to maybe one day be the first black woman to commentate for WWE or Impact or WoW, whatever comes first. But either way, it's starting with the athletes, with the Biancas, with the Jades, with you, with so many other women. It's just really inspiring to see us, be strong and be authentically ourselves, even with all the detractors who want to take away from it. That's
Mhm.
their problem, it's not ours. So we're going to still be amazing regardless. And I just can't wait to see more of what the future holds for us. I'm really excited and inspired by all of it and all of you. So I'm pumped about it.
I'm pumped as well. I just think back then, I know we were probably ready as a black community to see that representation, but I don't think the world was ready, and I don't think that it would have been as embraced then as it is now. Now we're hearing on the commentary microphone that this is the first WrestleMania that two black women have main evented. Like you're hearing that Michael Cole say that as the match is being called. I don't think if we would have gotten that back then, it would have even been a mention. It would just been like these are two people in a wrestling match. It's not about that. Now it's like because again our fan base is now more diverse. Our fan base is now more vocal in saying that more representation is needed in this industry than has before, that it's time.
Absolutely. Every time I think about that main event, I just want to cry all over again.
I love that main event. I love that match so much.
Me too. I've watched it so many times. It's unhealthy.
I
But it's
think
not really
every black
unhealthy
girl
though.
has watched that match over and over so many times.
Mhm. It's fantastic. Yeah, so I just can't wait to see what we have in store for wrestling as a whole. So, how do you feel about the state of wrestling, and what's really good about it, and what in your opinion can be improved upon?
uh, I would just say, let what I like about it is again the diversity and being able to speak up on things, and I think there. I mean, from what I've heard and stories that I've been told from people that have been in this business a long time, there was a time that nobody felt comfortable speaking up about things that are wrong backstage or treatment from other people backstage, and I think those times are clearly changing. I feel like I see a new tweet calling somebody out for bad behavior or poor behavior, not saying that that's the wrong, that's wrong, but I also too think that a lot of things can be resolved one on one. We don't always have to run to social media about it. All the fans don't always have to know our business, that what goes on backstage and whatever. So I do also think that we need to be nicer to each other online. That's just a personal opinion that I see a lot of, like, when people start getting their opportunity, or the people get this and that, or it's always a couple of hate tweets that come out the woodwork, and it's just like, hold on, you mean to tell me that this person has been working the indies for this long and this, that, and the other. And then all of a sudden, their name is on a list of they're getting a tryout or they signed a contract or this, that, and the other. And they get in their shine, and then all of a sudden now it's like, no, they're a terrible person. Like, why sit on this information? Why wait to air blast this information out when somebody gets a WWE tryout or they sign an AEW contract or they get a title push? Like, that's weird to me.
Yeah. I believe that all of it, in terms of social media, it can be a bear to deal with. When it comes to certain things or people and what we know and what we don't know and what's been, revealed and what hasn't been revealed. It can be a lot. And you are right. I agree with you. There is a level of niceness that should be, pursued in terms of wrestling and social media. But then that could also apply to social media as a whole. Honestly, because there's always an argument about something. There's always exposure about so many different things. And honestly, we do need to be kinder to each other, because in my mind I feel like if we all love wrestling, then why are we if we all love wrestling and we have some of the same similar stories about how we got into wrestling, whether it be the same or different or whatever, why can't we just all be a family and just relax?
I
Like,
agree.
that sounds really, really simple when you really think about it, because we're humans, but at the same time, I just wish, it could just be happy, and we can just relax and really understand that we all collectively love this thing. Workers love this thing, fans love this thing, we all love it. Like, and gear us that should propel us to each other and not against each other. So I just really, I absolutely agree with your sentiments there. So I get it. So, what would you say has been your greatest accomplishment so far?
Um, Winning two titles this year, definitely greatest accomplishment so far. Um, my second one would probably be wrestling on TV. I wrestled on local TV here uh twice. So those are my top ones for sure.
Yeah, I saw you were a champion. Like, I saw one picture of you with the title. It was the Warrior Pro Wrestling
Mhm.
Championship.
That was my
But
first one.
yeah. So it's just like the idea that you've been a champion twice this year is like, that is absolutely something to be proud of. And considering your career is still so young, like, you've accomplished so much already. And then, of course, there's still so much to do. So I'm really excited for you. And then the fact that you've been on television, like, that's amazing. Like, that's amazing. You really are on the right track. And I love that.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So, the final question for you, Miss Alexis Littlefoot, is, well, before I get to that final question, where did your inspiration for the character, the Big Flexer, come from? First of all, before I end this, where did that come from? Because I feel like that's a pretty cool, big money thing. So, where did that come from? What inspired
Very
that?
very inspired by female rappers. Like, I love Cardi B. I love all the girls that are rapping right now. I like Sexy Red. Like, I feel like all I love Lil Kim. Um I feel like those are like the hot girls. Like, they like, and wrestling is a guy's sport. Like, I just feel like the girls in rap, like even Lil Kim's era, like she was this pretty girl that was tough, like could keep up with the guys, like, and she was surrounded by so many men. And again, the women in this industry surrounded by so many men, they have to like either be just as good as the guys or have something to set themselves apart. And I feel like female rappers are in that same lane. They're in a male dominated industry. And they have to do something or have the skills to either be just as good or set themselves apart from everybody doing it. So very heavily inspired by female rappers for sure.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. And I am a big fan of Cardi B, and I love Megan Thee Stallion. She's definitely one of
I
my
love
favorites as
Meg.
well. Yes, and I did, of course, and I did love, listening to Left Eye with TLC and her solo stuff as well once it did become available. She was one of my favorite rappers too. So seeing women sort of take their place in rap now with it being multiple women and not just, like one specific person, um and the idea that it has to be one at a time is really like a blessing there. So the idea that you took that, type of personality and applied it to wrestling is an amazing thing. You're flexing with all of the fur coat and the money and you out here, like it's amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes. So what do you believe the future holds for you, Alexis?
Uh, Hopefully a contract somewhere. Hopefully more quality opponents. I really, um, I stay in my own lane. I don't really like look at what anybody else is doing and is like, oh, I wish that could be me or that should be me or any of that. I just, keep trucking and keep looking forward and keep booking what I and controlling what I can control. I can't control nobody's path but my own. So hopefully, the length that I'm on and the path that I'm currently walking will lead me to WWE, Impact, AEW. I'm not uh discriminatory against anybody's bag or company. I would love the opportunity from either one of those, even an MLW. Like, I don't discriminate. Opportunity is an opportunity to me, and a chance to shine is all I feel like I need. Is somebody to give me a chance to prove that I really am a star for sure.
Absolutely. And I'm more than sure that all of that will happen for you because your value is literally like above gold. So honestly, I feel that one day it definitely will happen for you and we will see you on TV somewhere because you have the charisma, you have the personality, and you have the talent, and you have just the it factor. So I can't wait to see more of what you have in store with your wrestling career. And of course, you always have a supporter here. So, Alexis Littlefoot, thank you so much for coming on the Hardy Wrestling Podcast. And just tell everybody where they can find and follow you and what you've got going on.
Yeah, you can follow me on all platforms at Young Littlefoot, YUNG Littlefoot. And yeah, I am wrestling all over Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana. So if you're in any of those states and get a chance, pull up, come see me. Yeah, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to be here and talk to you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And anytime you want to come back, don't hesitate to reach out. I'll have you back on because this was amazing and I love this conversation. So, in any point in your career, if you ever want to come back and talk, this is a safe space for you. And of course, this is a safe space for everyone who loves professional wrestling of all different kinds. So, of course, if you want to continue to enjoy the vibe of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast, you can find and follow me on Instagram and Twitter and Threads at Queen Steph Hardy. You can also follow the Hardy Wrestling Podcast on Instagram at Hardy Wrestling Podcast and on Twitter, because I'm not calling it X, at Hardy Wrestle Pod. I'm just not doing it. It's just no, I'm not doing it. It's weird. But either way, you can also subscribe to the YouTube channel at the Hardy Wrestling Podcast with the purple, blue, and pink logo. And just continue to support me and the vibe. And of course, if you're looking for any manner of hosting, writing, or color commentary, please book your girl here and just be on the lookout for more things that I have in store. And I'm just really excited, for what the future holds because, yeah, it's bright. So, with that in mind, this has been the Hardy Wrestling Podcast with your girl, Stephanie Hardy, and the Big Flexer, Alexis Littlefoot. And until next time, bye, y'all.